Right, moving on to part 2 of the Sunshine Owl cowl. Got some exciting rows ahead of you and we'll have some fun working through these. We're now working on row 15, and what we're going to do is we're going to join a new colour in any corner of our work. My preferred method of joining is to use a standing stitch. In this particular instance it will be a standing treble crochet. So we start off by making a slip stitch, which we leave on the hook. We then go over twice because this is a treble, and into this first corner I am going to go in, fetch a loop, pull through 2, pull through 2. Because we're making a cluster, we do not complete the last pull through 2. We leave those 2 stitches on the hook. We then go over twice again, back into this corner, fetch a loop, take off 2, take off 2. We now have 3 stitches, and to form our cluster we now pull through all 3. This leaves us effectively with 1 stitch out of the 2. We're now going to separate from the next cluster with 2 chains, and then we're going to make another cluster. Yarn over twice, fetch, yarn over, take off 2, take off 2, leave the last 2 because we're forming a cluster, and we do the same thing again. We have now made the side for this particular side of your work. We're now going to separate that from this side with 3 chains. 1, 2, 3. This is effectively where we are forming our corner. We're now going to do yet another treble cluster, exactly the same as we did before, leaving 2 on. And pull through 3 to form the cluster. Chain 2 and our final treble cluster. And this is what we have now. We have treble cluster, 2 chains, treble cluster, our 3 chains which forms the corner, a treble cluster, 2 chains, a treble cluster. We're now going to do a chain and skipping the hidden stitch, skipping that first hidden stitch, we're going to work a double crochet into there. We're now going to work 40 double crochets in total to take us to the next corner. So that's number 2, number 3. I will leave you to carry on until you've done 40, and I will see you at the other side. Right, I'm almost at the end of that particular row. I've done 35 stitches. I'm going to complete the last 5. 36, 37, 38, 39, and 40. You should now have 1 stitch left before you get to your corner. We're not going to work in that stitch. We're going to do 1 chain, and then we're going to make our treble cluster corner again. So we're going to do 1 treble cluster, 2 chains, second treble cluster, 3 chains to form the corner, another treble cluster, two chains, and another treble cluster. And we're going to finish this off with 1 chain. Again, skipping your first hidden stitch, working into the second stitch, work 40 double crochets until you get to the end of the row. Remember to put in a chain after the 40th double crochet before you start your treble cluster in the next corner. I will see you at the end of the row. Okay, we're now almost at the end of that row, row 15. I'm just going to do the last couple of double crochets, working into that last stitch. Not working into that last stitch, I beg your pardon, we have to miss that one. And we're going to do a chain. And at this point I'm going to show you two methods of joining the end of the row to the beginning. The first method being the classic slip stitch. So we go into the top of the cluster, pick that up, pull it through, and we have a join. An alternative method is to pull that through. This is called the invisible join. Thread a needle, going into not the top of the cluster, the stitch just to the left of that. Put your needle through, pull it up, go back into the last stitch and just into the back loop, and then just anchor it in that first stitch there and pull it through. It gives a particularly nice neat finish at the end of the row, especially when you are now changing colors. I will see you in a minute to start off with row 6. Right, welcome to row 16 of the Sunshine Owl Cowl. We're going to start by working in the one chain space just before our treble cluster corner. My preferred method of joining here is to do a standing single crochet. So we start with a slip stitch and into this space here, pull up a loop and pull through 2. We're going to make 2 single crochets in that space. In the next 2 chain space from the previous row, we're going to make 3 single crochets. 1, 2, 3. In the 3 chain space from the previous row, which formed our corner, we're now going to do 5 single crochets. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then moving on to our 2 chain space, we're going to do 3. 1, 2, 3 single crochets, and then finally into the 1 chain space which separates the corner from the first double crochet of the previous row, we're going to do 2 single crochets. We are then going to work 40 back post double crochets all the way to the other corner. Back post double crochet, yarn over your hook, insert the hook from behind around the post and pull through. The first one can be a little bit tricky to get that yarn through. You will land up with 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, take off 2, yarn over, take off 2, and then we have our back post double crochet. See how it goes around the post and not into the stitch. So let's do another one. Yarn over, through the back, catch that post, yarn up, pull through 2, pull through 2. You see the nice ridge effect that you get? Yarn over, around that back post, pull up a loop, pull through 2, pull through 2. Right, we're going to do 40 of these until we get to the next corner, and I will see you there. Right, I've worked my 40 back post double crochets all the way to the next corner, and let's just go through the corner one more time. Into the first chain space, we're going to work 2 single crochets. Into the next chain space, 3 single crochets. into our corner 3 chain space, 5 single crochets, and into the 2 chain space from the previous row, 3 single crochets, and then 2 single crochets into the 1 chain space. And there again we're going to start with our back post double crochets, and we're going to do 40 of these until we get to the next corner. I'm sure you're able to now complete the row on your own, so we'll see you after you have joined at the end of row 16, and we will move on to row 17. Right, welcome to row 17 of the Sunshine Owl Cowl. We are going to join in the 3rd stitch of any corner from the previous row. So we're going to count 1, 2, 3, and we're going to join with a double crochet. I'm using a standing double crochet. You can use your own method if you prefer. We're going to do a 2nd double crochet in that same stitch. We're then going to do 2 chains and another 2 double crochet into the same stitch. This forms our corner. We're then going to do 1 chain, and we're going to start doing our double crochet clusters. We're going to skip this particular stitch and work in the 2nd stitch there. So it's yarn over, fetch the yarn, yarn over, pull through 2. Leave the last 2 stitches on the hook because we're creating a cluster. Yarn over, pull through 2, and you now have 3 stitches on your hook. Yarn over, fetch the yarn, pull through 2, and we now have 4 stitches on the hook. Pull through 4 to complete your cluster. So you're taking it from 3 stitches down to 1. 2 chains, and we're now going to skip 2, 1, 2, and into the 3rd we're going to do another cluster. 2, 3. And we're going to do 2 chains, skip 2, 1, 2, and another cluster. 2 and 3, and pull through all 4. Let's just stop a moment and just look at what we've done. After our chain, after our corner space, I beg your pardon, we've done 1 chain, and we've skipped 1 and done a cluster. From now on, we do 2 chains and skip 2 and do a cluster until we get to the other end. We should land up with 18 clusters. So we will carry on, skip 2 into the 3rd, do a cluster. 1, 2, 3, and complete the cluster. So carry on until you have got 18 clusters, and I will see you at the other side. Right, we're at the end of the first side of row number 17, and you will see now that there are 18 clusters in total, excluding the corner. Don't count that. So we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. After the 18th cluster, you're going to do 1 chain, and then you're going to repeat your corner in the 3rd stitch of the 5. So it's 1, 2, 3 there. And here we're going to do the corner, which is 2 normal double crochets, not a cluster. 1, 2, and 2 normal double crochets. Okay, we're then going to do 1 chain. We're going to skip the first stitch there, and into the second stitch we're going to start our clusters again. After this first cluster, you're then going to do 2 chains, skip 2 stitches. Into the third stitch we're going to do a cluster. Always remember that working this cluster takes 3 stitches down to 1. If you do a normal double crochet, you're going to land up with a ruffle, so please be very careful of that. 2 chain, skip 2 stitches, into the third stitch do your cluster, and I'm going to now leave you to complete the rest of this row on your own. Join it, and I will see you at the next beginning of row 18. Right, welcome back. Now you should have finished your row 17 and have 18 clusters on each side, 2 double crochets, 2 chains and 2 double crochets in each corner. Please make sure that you've counted at this stage, because if it isn't correct you're going to have problems with subsequent rows. We're now going to work on row 18. I am going to join with a standing double crochet in any corner space, and then I'm going to work a second double crochet, 2 chains and 2 more double crochets in the same space. Very basic little corner, 2 double crochets, 2 chains, 2 double crochets. Then in the next 2 stitches I am going to work 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet and a third double crochet into the chain 1 space of the previous row. Just bear in mind that that first double crochet is worked into the hidden stitch. It's called a hidden stitch because it can slip under your corner stitch and is quite difficult to identify. Okay, so we now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches on that side of the corner. We're now going to do a chain 1. We're going to do a cluster into that space, so it's 1. Remember not to take off the last 2 stitches. Double crochet cluster, 2, 3. We now complete our cluster by drawing through all 4 loops. 2 chains, and then I'll need you to do 16 of these all the way to the end of the side. So we have 1, 2 and another cluster, and 1, 2. Okay, that's how your work should look. Please carry on until you have done 16 clusters, and then I will catch up with you. Right, now according to Vanessa's pattern we should have worked 16 clusters from the first corner. So we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 clusters plus 2 chains. We now need to work 1 final cluster into this space, which then gives us our 17 clusters. If you have the original version of the pattern, there is a typo in the pattern which says you should have 16 clusters per side. It is actually 17 clusters per side. We're then going to do 1 chain and then 1 double crochet into this 1 chain space from the previous round, 1 double crochet into the next stitch and another double crochet into the next stitch. We're then going to do our corner, which is 2 double crochets, 1, 2, 2 chains and 2 double crochets. Okay. We now need to work into the hidden stitch, 1 double crochet, into the next stitch, 1 double crochet, and into the next stitch, into the chain space of the previous row, 1 double crochet. So there we have formed our corner. Each corner will consist of the 2, 4, 5 with the 2 chain, 2, 4, 5. We're then going to do 1 chain and our first cluster, and thereafter we put 2 chains between each cluster, and we work 16 clusters plus the one which finishes off the side to give you a total of 17 clusters. I will see you at the end of the row after you've joined row 18. Right, moving on to row 19. This is a pretty straightforward row, nothing too scary. Starting with a standing double crochet in the corner, and then another double crochet, 2 chains, and 2 further double crochets into that corner space. Right. Then we're going to do 1 double crochet in each of the next 5 stitches, but please be careful to use the hidden stitch. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just take a look at this. You'll see that that takes you to just before your 1 chain space from the previous row. Into that 1 chain space, make 2 double crochets, and then into the next 2 chain space, 3 double crochets. Continue with your 3 double crochets into the chain space until the end of this side. Just bear in mind that this is a proper normal double crochet. It's not a cluster. That's the cluster. The cluster is where it goes 1, 2, 3 into 1 stitch. These are 3 separate stitches in this particular row. I will see you at the end of the side. Right. Here we go. We're now at the end of the first side, and we have completed our 3 double crochets in each 2 chain space from the previous row. We now have a 1 chain space from the previous row. In this one we're going to do 2 double crochets, and then we're going to do a double crochet into each of the next 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now if we go back and have a look at what we did in the first corner, you will see that it was 2 double crochets, 2 chains, 2 double crochets. So we repeat that here. 2 double crochets, 2 chains, 2 double crochets, and as we turn this corner, remember to work into your first hidden stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a moment. Then, because we've got a 1 chain space, we're going to do 2 double crochets into that, and then we simply continue with our 3 double crochets in the 2 chain spaces and work our way all the way around and join at the end. And I will see you for round 19. We're now going to start working on row 20, and what we're going to do here is we're going to count to the third stitch from the corner, 1, 2, 3, and in that stitch we're going to join with a half double crochet. I'm going to use my standing half double crochet to do that. Slip stitch on the hook, yarn over into the 1, 2, 3rd stitch from the corner. We're going to do a standing half double crochet, pull through all 3. Half double crochet, yarn over, fetch the yarn, yarn over, pull through all 3. We're now going to repeat this until we've got 62 stitches along this side. That will take you to just before the next corner. So please continue till you've got 62 half double crochets along this side. I will see you at the next corner. Right, we're on row 20. We've done the first edge. Now done 62 half double crochets, and at this point you should have 2 stitches left before the corner. We're going to do 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 chains, and then we're going to do a half double crochet into the 3rd double crochet on the next edge. 1, 2, 3. Don't forget to count the hidden double crochet, and then we're going to do 62 double crochets in total along this edge. When you get to the next corner, you should have again 2 stitches left before the corner. At that point you will do 6 chains, join in the 3rd, 1, 2, 3 double crochet from the previous round, and continue in that manner until you get to the end of the row. I'll see you for row 21. Right, let's move on to row 21. Going to your corner 6 chain space, start either with your 2 chain to form your first double crochet or a standing double crochet, and a further 3 double crochets, 2, 3. You should have 4 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4. You're then going to do 2 chains and another 4 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a very straightforward round. The next thing we're going to do is to do 62 double crochets along the edge. Please make sure that you work your first double crochet into your first stitch. Don't miss that stitch. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and continue until you reach the next corner. The next corner, do 4 double crochets, 2 chains, 4 double crochets, and then 62 double crochets. I'll see you at the end of the round. Okay, we're now on to round 22. This is the round that has been giving people the most problems. The corner can be quite tricky. So what I'm going to do is take it very, very slowly and show you exactly how this works. First thing we're going to do is we're going to join in the first, in the 2 chain space from the previous row. I've joined with a standing single crochet. You can join in your preferred method, and we need 2 of those, and then we're going to need 2 chain and then another 2 single crochets in there. Now, working in front of this row, you're going to fold that away and you're going to work into there. We're going to do a treble into there. So yarn over the hook twice, put it into the space, fetch the yarn, pull through 2, pull through 2, and pull through 2. That's what you've got there now. Moving this out of the way slightly, that is your first hidden stitch. You skip that stitch, and do a single crochet into that stitch. Then we're going to do another treble. Again, fold the work away, work into the previous rows, do your treble. Let's just fold that away so you can see, skip that stitch and do a single crochet in that stitch. Work your single crochets until you have 64 after the treble, and I will see you at the next corner so we can go through that one and do a complete corner for you. Right, continuing on row 22. I have now completed my 64 single crochets after the last treble crochet, which was into the mauve round. At this point you will have 1, 2, 3 stitches left. Make a treble, fold away the work into the mauve section. 1 treble. Then skipping a stitch, we have a look here, we've worked into that stitch, we skip that stitch, and we're going to do a single crochet into that stitch. We're then going to do another treble crochet back into the mauve round. Easiest if you just fold away that white round so that it's out of the way. If we now have a look at this, we skip one stitch there, and into our corner we're going to do 1, 2, 2 chain and 1, 2 single crochets. Then we're going to do a treble back down into the mauve, again just folding the white bit out of the way so that you can get to it easier. And then skipping the hidden stitch, do a single crochet into the next stitch, and then we do one final treble crochet into the next stitch, into the mauve. Okay, this is what it looks like. We then skip a stitch, skip that stitch, and we do our 64 single crochets along the edge, and we repeat until the end of the row. A very good morning to you all. Just as a little aside, it's always a good idea to block your work as you go along. Last night I laid this out, pinned it into place and size, and gently sprayed it with a little bit of water. This morning it's ready to carry on and it's looking really good. Not sure that I particularly like the colours I've chosen for this one, but it's a stash buster, so I guess we'll have to just carry on with them. Okay, it's time to get started on row 23, but before we do that, please can I ask you all to just do a stitch count. You should have 66 single crochets per side, 2 single crochets and 2 chains in each corner. Your trebles do count in your side count. Very, very important to do this after every round of the pattern, otherwise you will find later on that things start to go horribly wrong and you will land up ripping out rows, which is really not a pleasant thing to have to do. The next row 23 is very straightforward. We are going to join with a standing half double crochet in any corner to chain space. Remember here that you can use your preferred method of joining the new yarn into the round. This happens to be my method, my preferred method. We're going to do 2 half double crochets, 2 chains and 2 half double crochets. Then something to bear in mind with Vanessa's pattern If she doesn't tell you to skip the hidden stitch, then you need to work in it at all times. Okay, we're now going to do 74 half double crochets, starting in the hidden stitch and working towards the corner. As I said, this is a very straightforward row, so as you get to the next corner, please work your 2 half double crochets, 2 chains, 2 half double crochets, and continue to work around the edges until you reach the end and join your work. And I will see you then for the next row in a short while. Right, and now we're on to row number 24. This is again a reasonably straightforward row, just needs a little bit of concentration working in the back loops only. Before we go ahead, please just double check your stitch count. You should have 74 half double crochets per side with 4 half double crochets and 2 chains in each corner. Right, so now we're ready to go. So what we're going to do now is join with a standing single crochet like that, and another one, 2 single crochets, 2 chains and 2 single crochets. Right, now it's important to watch quite carefully while I describe the structure of the stitch. This is your stitch here. You've got 1, 2 loops, but if you go to the back you will find that there's actually a third loop, this one here. So with working this back loop only, we're going to anchor that stitch into this particular loop there. So just to show you again, you've got 1, 2 and then the third loop at the back of the work. Okay, that'll prevent the back loop only from becoming quite loose. It keeps it nice and firm. So going into the back loop only of our first stitch, there. Oops, missed it. It's quite tricky to get it at first, but then it gets a little bit easier. And we're going to do a single crochet. And we're going to do that. See, I'm going through the back loop. And then I'm catching that extra little loop at the back there as well. Show you one more time. Through there. Catch that extra little loop. And there. Through there, catch the extra little loop, and there, and off we go. What we'll end up with is the front loops being unworked, and it forms a nice little pattern on this side. Now this row is very straightforward. When you get to the next corner, do your 2 single crochets, 2 chains, 2 single crochets, and then continue to do your 78 back loop crochets all the way around until we get back to our joining point over here. And I will see you later for round 25. Okay, please check your stitch count from the just previously completed row 24. You should have 78 single crochets on each side and 4 single crochets and 2 chain spaces per corner. Vanessa's pattern suggests that you keep the same color for the next row. I am going to change the color just so that it shows the different rows quite clearly for you. If you're going to keep the same color, please slip stitch from your join into the 2 chain space of your corner. The corner then has 2 double crochets. By now you should be familiar with my method of joining using a standing double crochet, 2 double crochets, 2 chains and 2 double crochets. Into the next hidden stitch, put 1 more double crochet. Then skipping 2 stitches, working into the 3rd stitch, we're going to do a V. The V stitch consists of 1 double crochet, 1 chain, 1 double crochet. Again skipping 2 stitches into the 3rd stitch, we do another V. Skipping 2 stitches into the 3rd stitch, we do another V. We continue until we have 26 of these V stitches across the side. I will meet you at the end of the 26 V stitches. Right, we are now at the point where we have completed our 26 V stitches, and at this point you should have 3 stitches left before your corner. 1, 2, 3. We're now going to skip the 2, and in the 3rd stitch do a double crochet. Then moving on to the corner, double crochet, 2 of them, 2 chains and another 2 double crochets in there. Okay, working into the hidden stitch, 1 double crochet and then 1, 2 skip into the 3rd stitch. We're going to do our V's. Now continue until we've got 26 V's, and then we're going to do our double crochet and our corner. I will see you at the end of this row for the final row of week 2. Welcome to round 26, which is your final round of the Sunshine Owl Cowl for week 2. Some of you will be feeling very disappointed that it's come to an end, but week 3 will be on its way shortly. Now we're going to start with the standing double crochet in any 2 chain corner space. 2 chain and another 2 double crochet in that chain space. We're then going to start by working in the first hidden stitch. We're going to do 1, 2, 3 double crochets, just so that you can see how that works out. It comes to the end of your 3 of the previous row. Then we're going to work V stitches into the chain space of the previous row's V stitches. Now that's what it's going to look like. We're going to do 26 of those until we get to the end of this particular side, and I will see you there to complete the corner. We have now completed our 26 V stitches and we are at the next corner. What we're going to do is work 1, 2, 3 double crochets in those last 3 stitches. 2, 3, and then our corner 1, 2 double crochets, 2 chains and 2 double crochets. And then to start our next side, into the first hidden stitch, 1, 2, 3 double crochets, which then brings us to our first V, and into that V we work another V, and we do 26 of these and then carry on as I've just described. Please complete the round and I will see you once you have joined and ready for the next week. We're now at the end of row 26, which is the final row in this week's Sunshine Owl Cowl. Just before I sign off and start working on week 23, let's just go over sewing away the ends one final time. It's a dreadful pity to go to all this trouble of making a beautiful item to find that the ends pull out and the work starts to unravel. In order to ensure that doesn't happen, thread your needle, find an area where there is a substantial amount of stitches if you can. Pull through once, go back, take a slightly different path, weave through the yarn, pull through twice, and again taking a slightly different path. pull through a third time. This way that yarn will never come free. Trim it, and we can do the next one. And I'm going to go in the same space once, twice. Taking a different path is to make sure that it doesn't actually pull through. If you take exactly the same path, it will pull through. And trim. And there we have our ends safely tucked away, and they will not come loose. I will see you shortly for week 3 of the Sunshine Alcal. I hope you've enjoyed this video tutorial as much as I have enjoyed making it for you.